Welcome to Consciousness Unfiltered. Get ready for a very different, vulnerable, and uncensored conversation with Dr. Anthony Mattis and his amazing guests. They'll be sharing the powerful tools of Access Consciousness that have helped thousands of people all over the world to create change in every area of their lives.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Anthony Mattis. Welcome to Consciousness Unfiltered. And I am joined by my wonderful friend and guest, Megan Hill, certified facilitator of Access Consciousness and kind of like an overseer of the Access Consciousness business. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and Dr. Dane here, co-creator of Access. And so welcome to the show. The name of the show today is Beyond Medicine and Into Possibilities. I love your story, Megan, and I would love for you to share it with the world. Kind of like what was your day job before Access, and what was like your degrees, and like sort of like what was going on in your life before you kind of stumbled upon Access Consciousness?
I love your title, by the way. Thanks for having me. I was just asking, what are we talking about? Just showing up. So before I found Access, I was, I think I was like 4 or 5 years out of school. I went to the University of Kansas, go Jayhawks.
Cool.
And I graduated with a degree in communications with communications with a minor in sociology, because I loved like the study of people and things, whatever. So I actually I started working in, strangely enough, in the acting world. So I got a job I got an internship in my last year of college at a talent agency where I was doing all sorts of like auditions and filing. And, as an intern, you basically do whatever they ask you to do.
Yeah.
And in that, I just started like really seeing, because I had no idea, you go to college.
Sure.
I pretty much partied hard and went to class occasionally. And I loved certain classes, but I was just really having a good time.
Yeah.
And so I got a job and had no idea really what I wanted to do with my life. And in this, there's all these auditions and casting companies, and I started seeing this area of the business side of things that I didn't really realize. So I thought it would be really cool to work in production, and I loved creation. I loved like creating things and production. But what I saw was, after being on different TV sets, commercial sets, that's really hard work, long hours, all sorts of stuff. But what I started to notice was the fun was actually in the creation of the commercial and the creative directors that were coming through, hiring the talent and stuff like that. So through asking questions, realized that's more like on the agency side of advertising. So I got a job at an advertising agency after that.
Okay.
And so that was so then I got in at that place. I started to learn I really got to learn about marketing and also creative direction with all sorts of, brochures, direct mail, TV spots, radio spots, but really from the, writing the copy. Anyway, so all this creative stuff of advertising and marketing. And so from then on, I spent, I think, about 10 years in advertising. I found Access during this career journey, because in advertising, it's extremely intense, high paced, lots of work and lots of it's all these creative type people. So I loved that part of it. But I also, where I started slipping a bit was as I was getting, I was still having the 20 something party lifestyle, plus trying to be a professional, plus, oh my God, what is my life supposed to be like? Plus all these things that I had no idea that were, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why I was waking up unhappy, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
I had lots of anxiety, super stressed, sad for no reason. Just this waking up with a big dark cloud around me.
Yeah. So was this the first time in your life that you've noticed the dark cloud or anxiety or just waking up unhappy? Had you had that before in life, or is this sort of the first time having this show up?
I was always extremely sensitive
Okay.
to like, and not sensitive, like, like,
Your feelings.
yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. Like I went, I was a teenager and went through a whole,
Sure.
I loved Alanis Morissette and Tori Amos and some really good, I was really into, I was really into some feelings. But I was really different, I was
Yeah.
really hyper aware, never fit in, I
Yeah.
would always like in college and in high school and everything, I so badly wanted to fit in and was hanging out with popular people, quote popular people, but I was always so different
Mm,
and I didn't know why. And I
okay.
didn't know I couldn't be like other people. Like I really wanted to kind of be like other people, if that like
Sure.
I, I wanted the things that everybody else was happy with. I wished I was happy with them and I wasn't.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
you know,
I hear you. So then,
I don't know
okay. So
if
you're,
you were
you're,
like that, but
all right. So 10 years you're in the workforce and you're making decent money for that time of your life, or?
I didn't care. I was just like, for me, it's never been about, I've always created money. Like I
Okay.
started working when I was 14. So I've
Okay.
always been able to create money. I've had lots of random jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I love creation. Like I love business and, you know, seeing how things work and
Nice.
learning about different things. So as long as I have that, that was
Mhm.
awesome because the
Gotcha.
job where you're just getting a paycheck and like, watching the hours go by,
Yeah.
that would make me want to shoot myself. So
Cool. So it's like you got to create and the money was sort of like a byproduct of your creations.
yeah.
Okay. And then so, but okay. So when you started realizing this anxiety and like what started to change for you for like like when that started getting more intense in your world?
The anxiety or the
The
um
anxiety, the depression, the dark cloud deal.
um it's hard to like remember now.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the moment that I chose to go on antidepressants. I
Okay.
think it was only like, and this I've talked to a lot of people now, like that's your only choice if you don't know that other things are possible. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
that
totally.
it's pretty much like, hey, if you are having a hard time with anything and you're what like I don't even, now it's so beyond it's so beyond my world, but at the time I think I just was really struggling with, all sorts of and it's so bizarre to me. But basically, I went to a doctor because I was like, I just have this anxiety going on. I went looking for like, can somebody diagnose whatever is wrong with me? Can
Right.
somebody tell what's wrong with me? And he said, your brain works different than most people. So, it's not balancing. So basically, if it's your brain isn't balancing, then let's try a few different medications so that you can actually like, simmer
Yeah.
down or be, I don't even know what, I don't, at this point, I'm not even sure what the target was
Right.
besides to not have me be so up and down. It
Okay.
wasn't necessarily like bipolar, but it was high anxiety, depression, but then also like, I don't know, I think
Yeah.
just different, so different. So he
And
put me,
but life was like working out for you. So, right, like, so from your point of view, like there was no rhyme or reason for you to be anxious or depressed, right? Like,
right,
okay, so that's interesting. That's different because sometimes people will have outside things going on where it's sort of like they're reacting to those things, and so anxiety will show up or they'll be depressed. But like you're on paper, your life actually looked pretty good, right? But yet you had all
yeah,
this stuff going on inwardly.
yeah. And at this time, um, it was like 2008, I think. The economy had crashed. So like at my job, they were doing all like marketing is the first budget to get cut
Okay.
when things go bad with the economy. So a lot of people were experiencing layoffs, like the job was getting stressful and
Right.
like super stressful. Like people were like, oh my
Yeah.
God, am I going to lose my job? I'm trying to like remember back. I'm sure I had boyfriend issues. Who knows? all the like things that were going
Stuff,
on that,
life stuff.
yeah.
Sure.
like,
Okay. So how did you find out about Access? I mean, being in your field, I mean, for me, I was a chiropractor, right? So I was always getting emails of all these different healing techniques. So how did you even get exposed to Access consciousness as someone who is in the advertising world?
I have a lot of weird ants, not
Wow.
ants and bugs, but ants. So from the time I was a kid, my family was Catholic, but they started exploring other things beyond Catholicism, and some of the weirdest shit, like, there was, I don't even, just weird stuff, but weird was normal to me with different things that were showing up in my family. So like meditation,
Right.
mantra, and psychic readings, and spiritual intuitives, and homeopathic, like all that sort of stuff was starting to get explored by my mom and my aunts, and she's
Okay.
got 4. So that's where it was like, I would try to do meditation, but I couldn't, quiet my mind down that well. I would try all sorts. I was like open to trying anything.
Anything. Okay.
And that's where I actually I think it was like, we had a Thanksgiving dinner or something, and they were talking about it, and they had tried this, this new thing called the bars. And that was when I had first heard of them talking about it, which was really cool.
Cool. And
And
at this point, you are on medication, right? Like what medicines were you on? Do you remember specifically? Was it for anxiety or like bipolar or what?
yeah, I was on Prozac after
Okay.
trying I tried Lexapro. There's all these types of medications out
So
there.
those are antidepressants. Okay.
Yeah. And so Prozac gave me enough of a numbing sensation, but it didn't, like, I remember if you've ever done antidepressants, they are quite full on. So you got to find one that works for you. So I tried
Right.
Lexapro, and that one, I was a zombie. I didn't have any feelings at all, which
Yeah.
included happiness. So
Okay.
I was just like, people would like tell a joke, as
Yeah.
I'm quite vibrant. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I remember like sitting somewhere and people were like telling a joke, and I was just like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so that one didn't work. But Prozac was the one that actually worked for me. It had like, it kind of controlled the whatever ups and downs a bit.
Okay.
And then they also gave me
Did you ever have suicidal tendencies or
I was
ideas?
never really, no, I was never really suicidal.
Okay.
Um yeah, I never was like, let's just off myself. I think I was more like slow suicidal, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
choosing really destructive things. I
Right.
was drinking a lot, smoking a lot of weed. I love smoking weed. That was like, talk about calming this, crazy overactive now I know it's awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talk
I
about that.
did not
Yeah.
know that before.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in a sec. So, okay, so you learned about access consciousness, the bars, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's just basically 32 points on your head that carry all the electromagnetic components of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, and considerations in a bunch of different areas: sadness, joy, healing, your points of view about your body, sexuality, money, creativity, healing. The list goes on and on and on. And so it's sort of like defragging the brain. And in some instances can actually maybe even create new neural pathways. So you start functioning differently than the way that you have been for however long. So great. So you went to your first bars class. So what happened? Like maybe not the first one or the second one, but like what happened for you to basically leave the real world and actually start working for Access Consciousness and become a facilitator? Like how did it change your life?
It changed everything. Strangely enough, though, like when I first got my bars run, I was, like a energy healing body worker junkie, basically. Like, can people just work on me, and then I'll continue to live my life in the real world.
Mhm.
So when my first bars class came up as a possibility, I was like, why would I go there? Like, I'm not a healer person. Like, I'm not into that kind of stuff. I don't need to
Right.
become a practitioner or, you know, but I went anyway, and it was phenomenal. I can't explain the energy that occurred in the class and continues to expand in every access class that I take, where it's just like you feel like you could fly. There's no, what you thought was just like this really limited world with maybe
Yeah.
one doorway with a long hall is like it opens up and there's no hallway anymore.
Wow.
It's not this
Yeah.
one linear path.
Yeah.
So
So the
yeah,
space of possibilities opened up for you, basically.
yeah.
Wow. Cool.
I remember running the bars and having the bars facilitator go through the manual, and I couldn't even, and I at the time, like, I'm intelligent, I am I am whatever, successful. I couldn't even read the words on the page.
Yeah. Yeah, it does that. It does that.
And I was just like, what is happening? Things like, hey, ask your body what it would like to eat at lunch today.
Yeah.
Blew my world.
Right. Right.
Ask your body it would like to wear tomorrow, or ask your body, if your body's uncomfortable, ask your body this, blah, blah, blah. Asking questions, empowering me to know that I knew. That was like phenomenal.
Yeah. So what did you start to learn about your anxiety and depression?
That I was extremely aware.
Okay, cool. So like in Access, we talk about basically in the bars class, which is the first place we all start. Most people start. This is also Being You and Changing the World. That's created by Dr. Dane here as well. So you don't have to have any prereqs to take those classes as well, but you don't really learn the bars in that class. So great book, by the way, for all of you to get that. But the bars is like, where you're gifting and receiving, learning how to do this process. So besides like, wow, my space of possibilities opened up, like what started to actually shift with regards to like your anxiety and depression?
I had more space to, when you are depressed, you are like caved in, you are really depressed and compressed. And so with the bars, it allowed me to actually decompress basically and open up to even being able to ask a question like, hey, could this, is this actually my awareness? Like, is this actually my anxiety? Is this my fear? Is this my sadness? I was living, I had a room.
That's right. You just reminded me. I forgot where I was going. Right. So one of the questions we learn is, who does this belong to? Right.
Yeah.
Like 99.99% of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions don't belong to us. When I first heard that, I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, come on, it's my feelings, it's my thoughts. Of course it's mine, right? But I just kind of went along with it.
Even now.
Huh? No,
but I mean, sometimes now I'm like, no, it definitely is mine,
Yeah. 10 years later, or how long have you been doing Access now?
Like 15 years, I don't know, a long time.
Yeah, well, because it's our body's physiologically responding to whatever it is that we're thinking. The thing is, we are tapped into hundreds and thousands of people's thoughts, no different than your radio in your car. It's picking up on the frequencies. But that was a new concept that I'd never really heard before. And
how's it going for you now? I mean, you and I have a very we're
total head trippers. Yeah, total head trippers and super aware of everybody else. And then we start to head trip everybody else's head tripping. So, and it's like, it's easy because when that's something that has been made valuable in this reality, especially if you happen to have, I come from an Italian family, I have Italian and Puerto Rican blood in me, and I'm like, so I react to the world around me passionately, with passion and zeal or zest or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, and so and then as it's like, my first wife committed suicide. She was diagnosed with bipolar. So I watched somebody go from sane to psychotic to catatonic practically, really for no logical reason. And so from my point of view, I'm like, there's got to be a reason. you can't, I understand about the chemical imbalances. I don't disagree with that, but like nobody's asking what's causing these chemicals to become imbalanced. And so what
Right.
I've come to learn is she was just really hyper aware. The things she would talk about when she was in her most insane states was basically awareness of things that you can't talk to your doctors about because they're going to lock you away. So when you
Yeah.
don't have that playground to sort of develop your awareness, or do you talk to somebody about it without them actually judging you or putting you into some box, it'll make anybody go insane.
Yeah.
And fast forward, I learned about this thing. I'm not even gonna, yeah. I was like, I couldn't understand why she killed herself, because she
Yeah.
wasn't doing drugs, she wasn't drinking alcohol, but she was telling me all these things she was aware of, but it was freaking her out.
Yeah.
And church couldn't save her. You know, we had a guru that he didn't save her. We did metaphysics before that, and that didn't save her. And the medicines, we had a bag full of prescription drugs this big.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? And then this is the part. See, I'm reacting, right? Because I get
Well, no,
going.
but
It's like,
it's vital because there are a lot of people, like, these are things that nobody talks about because you don't really want to expose how crazy it can
it's
get.
insane.
Yeah.
And then here's the funny part. We're in the hospital, and she's being interviewed by the social worker, right? She's in the hospital like a week, and her heart rate it's still like 120 beats a minute while sitting in a chair. And then the
Yeah.
lady's like, you need to set life goals. And I went, we're certified Christian life coaches. We're certified facilitators in concept therapy. Are you fucking kidding me? This is what we do for a living, setting life goals. She's psychotic in these 10 seconds. Like she can't sleep. She hasn't slept in 7 months. What are you fucking talking about? Anyway, so whatever. But the reason why I want to do these podcasts is because it's like just to really it's not even to make that world wrong, but it's like, man, if that's the only thing we think that we have available to us, then that kind of pisses me off. I'm sorry, because there's people that are committing suicide. They're on so many different medicines that are not helping, maybe masking things for a little while. And yet, what about all these other possibilities that exist outside of the mainstream? So I at
Well,
least want to bring that to people's attention.
I have to say, I explored pretty much everything that I could at the time. And I know there's more stuff now, but I tried, like I tried natural. There's a mood pill that you can get at like Whole Foods called 5-HTP. I tried, like I tried fucking everything. I tried meditation workshops. I tried everything alternative. It wasn't until Access Consciousness that exposed the fucking killer is that you're aware. I was trying to medicate and quiet down my awareness. I was trying to medicate sadness that wasn't mine, anxiety that wasn't mine. And so that's why every time, I would take, they'd give me the pills. And then after 3 months, the anxiety would come back. So I would have to get up the dosage. But that's because they're fixing a problem without actually looking at like what's actually going on. And for me, hands down, Access Consciousness is basically the only thing out there that's ever exposed that, hey, this whole basically 99.999% of everything that you think and you feel is not yours.
Yeah. And that took me a while. I would say that probably took me 3 years, almost 5 years to like really be like, whoa, because I had to get really, really present with certain tools that are a little bit more advanced than like when you're first starting out. For me, I got such great results with just the bars and receiving the body processes, and then the symphony possibility classes, like these energetic classes. And again, all those things were just opening up and creating more space and more possibilities. But I didn't really start getting present with who does this belong to till about 5 years of doing Access, and it changed my world. And I realized that so much of the melancholia that I had struggled with basically all my life, I always had felt like I had this like gray cloud following me, right? I wasn't like super depressed, too chicken shit to kill myself, and but I was never like really super happy unless I was getting laid or in love or smoking weed too. I smoked weed not to chill. I smoked weed so I can giggle. It gave me belly laughs. But then I started getting paranoid. So I'm like, I can't smoke weed anymore. This sucks. But anyway, so besides the bars and like, who does this belong to, which is one of the fundamental questions, the first questions we learn in Access is that really live in and ask the question, what, like, what other tools like were your sort of like your go-to tools, especially in the beginning? And then so much so that you were like, you know what, fuck working in the real world. I would like to work and contribute to Access Consciousness. I mean, that takes a lot of balls to do that. So what like other tools did you use, and what made you decide to go and switch completely to actually work with Access full time?
I strangely enough, I don't think Dane's book had come out yet. I think it came out like right around the same time, but he did a telecall called, I think it was called The Elements of Being. And once I I was one of those people that did bars. And then I was like, oh my God, what's next? Foundation next weekend. Okay, great. When's the next, level 2 and through is at the time, choice of possibilities. When's that? Okay, I'm there. So I think I did everything, within
You're
like
like boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I always was on like a telecall or something, because I so required this constantly in my life to remind me that I'm not actually crazy. I'm aware, I have magical capacities, because it was so easy for me to kind of slip back into dun 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 dun, dun, this is all that there is, or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So but there was this exercise that Dane talked about, like, okay, get the energy of what you'd like your life to be like.
Right.
And then like, work through that. And then anything that has that energy, jump for it. Like, allow that energy to keep like basically showing you how to create your life and what to create your life as, and follow the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with like, fuck, okay, if I could create anything, then what are the energies that I really loved? Okay, I loved, being at these Access classes. Okay, so I can't really be at Access classes all the time necessarily. In my world, I was like, I have to work to pay for Access classes. So I started like, okay, doing different things. I started facilitating bars classes on the side, on the weekends or whatever. And I just started loving it. Then I became pregnant, surprise.
Okay.
And I was using
Time out for a second. At what point did you get off the meds?
so like when I found Access, I was pretty much like trying to wean myself off of them. And
Okay.
as you know, it's not exactly easy. But I think I might have even because there was a period of time where I was like getting my bars run plus doing blah, blah, blah before my first bars class. So I think I tried getting off of them then, and it was just not easy to not be on them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Because it takes I can't remember now, but it takes like 6 weeks or something, or longer, like a month, or I don't know, 3 months for your body to actually get it all out of its system.
Yeah. And you have to wean off too. So you have to be careful with how you don't want to ever do that cold turkey. That'll make you go a little cuckoo cuckoo in and of itself. Yeah. But you've been off of the meds for how long now?
Oh, since then. Yeah. Since
like 13 years ago, 14, 15.
Once I saw the future, if I continued with meds, I really looked at it. I was 25 or 26 years old, and I had gone back to the doctor again, and he was like, all right, because your brain is basically like still doing this thing, we're just going to have to keep increasing the dosage. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and put you on a dosage and a half. So that means like, whatever, if you take 30 pills in a month, then we're going to go, because your brain is basically metabolizing it or something. So we need to give you more than the normal dose.
Your brain is like out creating the meds.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So we're going to increase it to, you're going to be on a dosage and a half. And then they gave me Xanax, which I loved because that was like super chill pill. Yeah. Xanax in case, whatever, basically in case you like have a bad day. But it was at that point where I was like, man, I was in the doctor's office with a heart rate of like 1 billion for no reason.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you are you is everything okay? And I was like, I do not know. I don't know why my heart rate is like this.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, yeah, but that was like, it was kind of like a choice to stop doing that led me to find access consciousness. Cause it was in that moment that I was like, I was also around people who were in their, that I worked with in different things that were in their 50s, 60s. And this was how they lived.
Yeah.
It was totally normal to, smoke weed, take some pills and whatever,
Right.
It's
Wow.
like, I am not really sure this is where I'd like to go. Because
Right.
if this is all that life is, and I've pretty much whatever done this in the last however many years, I think it was like a year. And I was like, no, this isn't fun. If this is life, then this is stupid.
That's a big deal. So you're saying you got off your meds in about a year of starting
Yeah.
access. That's like amazing because look, I mean, that's like really huge. I don't know if you've even fully acknowledged it completely because once you start down that road of antidepressants and the doctors are convinced that, you have this chemical imbalance, like there's a glitch in the brain, they're basically saying you're going to need these forever is what they're saying. It wasn't even like the conversation sounded like you were having with him is like, well, this is your brain. And that's just the way it's always going to be, like a diabetic who requires insulin.
Yeah.
And as well, from what I've learned is mental stuff are like weeds. You can get rid of them temporarily with the medicines or with the weed killers. But man, that brain, those weeds always find ways to come back one way or another. So their solution is let's either up the dosage or we'll try a different pill. And look, and I get that it has saved people's lives and gotten people out of messes. And I'm not against medicine. One of our mottos in Access is we say consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. And we never advise people to get off their meds, but you just made that choice on your own. But that's fucking huge to get off of those meds when they told you that this is the way your brain's gonna fucking be.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking impressive.
Like, until you just said that, I was like, but why would I listen to a stupid doctor?
Yeah, well, because the whole planet does. I
Yeah.
mean, those
Well,
pills that you were on are like the top 10 selling drugs in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah.
They hand them out like Flintstone vitamins.
They do. And I can tell you that there have been days that still come up where I'm like, man, a Xanax would be easier than fucking who does it belong to right now?
Yeah. Well, but it's like, but what reality? Okay, so like if you look at the world that we live in, does it
Yeah.
support being in question, or
No.
does it support quick fixes?
Yeah, totally. And
And so,
it did, I have a lot of different people that I've worked with that have similar, whatever intensity of awareness. And every single time it's like the deal is with access is you have to use the tools. So
right.
it's just as easy as it is to pop a pill or, smoke a joint or have a drink. It's a choice to also use the tools. So I've worked my fucking ass off because I have a tendency to go crazy town. I still
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I can get really present and look at, okay, is it mine? What am I aware of? What am I perceiving? If I'm not thinking or feeling this, what am I actually aware of? Like I have all these questions that I can ask, but I have to ask, and I have to be willing to get really present with that energy.
Yeah.
And know that you won't be destroyed by it.
Yeah. Well, one thing what clicked for me is I was very uncomfortable one day, like super uncomfortable. Felt like I was having a little panic attack, and I was making myself wrong for that because I'm like I'm a facilitator now. This is not supposed to be. So I'm like, I remember calling Gary up, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and I'm like, hey, I feel really fucking uncomfortable, man. And he's like, what's wrong with being uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you mean like, because I thought I was being like unconscious or anti-conscious because I was uncomfortable.
Right.
Consciousness is not always comfortable. it's not always easy. And one of the biggest components that I found that have been really helpful is it requires you to be that space of vulnerability. Without
Yeah.
vulnerability and the willingness, it won't work, because you got to be willing to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of yourself and everyone else without having a point of view about it. And I know, and I've watched you, you've done that. It is easier to take a Xanax and just numb yourself out, and then maybe, throw down 4 or 5 or 6 drinks of booze
Yeah.
on top of that.
Yep.
But having that space of vulnerability, just, it always creates greater, even if it might feel like, you know, you're dying in the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And being, the thing with access that I loved is you always, there's so many people that have your back that won't judge you.
yeah,
I talk to you about things this is what's going on in here, and then because you can have that vulnerability with somebody else and expose it, and then they can be like, okay, like it, and not make it significant, not make it whatever. It's like, these are things, and tools and people that have, the ability to just be the space of no judgment with you, which then like melts fucking
yeah,
everything,
awesome.
you know?
Yeah. So what would you like to see, like, in the world with the tools?
Like you said, like, I, what would it take for the world to know that it's available? I
Yeah,
know I know of tons of people that know that I do access consciousness and how it's changed my life, and they're still not interested. That's
yeah,
okay, you know?
yeah,
But if someone's out there and especially like with struggling with the mental stuff, then just having them know that it's available and having, the resources that it's there. I mean, it's interesting. I have a 10-year-old, which, and as he's gotten older, his dad is very calm. Like Greg
mhm,
is pretty much has never really understood why I would have anxiety or do you know what I mean? Like that's just
yeah,
like not even part of his
sure,
world. But Tristan has, this side, not side, whatever. He has awareness. And so it's
mm,
been really interesting just in the last like year, um, as a parent working with, him when he gets really fearful or has, he's starting to have anxiety or like these, he's getting in Colorado, they have these really like loud winds and everything. So now
mhm,
he's like worked himself into this place where he's decided it's like anxiety. But I get to work with him on, okay, let's look at it. What is, we're working with one of the tools called light and heavy. So if it makes you feel lighter, then it's true. And if it's heavy, then it's a lie. So
mhm,
things like the wind is like a bad example, but there was like this weird TikTok threat that came through in the United States. I don't know if it was in your area, but it was like, oh, all the schools were alerted that there was going to be some like mass shooting or something at all these schools in the US. And he like freaked out. And I was like, all right, let's look at it. Is it light or heavy? And he's like, heavy. And I was like, okay, is going to school light or heavy? So you help having him have the tools to navigate
yeah,
world is really cool. It's
yeah,
like, so I would love for kids to be able to have access to it if they'd like, again. But with it's like, I don't even know how you would navigate the world right now without these tools. And you don't have to take a million access classes to get them. Light and heavy, there are videos galore about it on YouTube,
yeah,
you know?
right, for free.
But
There's tons of tools for free.
yeah. And
Um,
they're vital to knowing that knowing what's true for you and knowing how to navigate the world so that you are not like, I mean, fear is a big thing right now. I think if I didn't have the tools, I'd definitely probably be on medication right now because it's like amped up,
totally. It's
fear.
crazy.
Yeah, you're gonna die, you're gonna get, sick, you're gonna all this
Yeah,
stuff, like holy shit. And it's
yeah,
been for me as well, but I have the tools to go, okay, light or heavy, is this my, I kind of run through this list of questions.
yeah.
And if you didn't have that, it would be kind of a scary place to live. So
Oh, true story. So, like, do you do private sessions and stuff like that?
I do sometimes. I'm really bad at offering I have a class. I actually have a telecall coming up with Emily Russell on Monday, but I don't know when this podcast is airing. But yeah, I do private sessions, and I work a lot with Access Consciousness. So it keeps me on my toes. But as I talked about in the beginning, like constantly looking at what energies you can add to your life to have your life be more wow and wonderful. So I'm
Nice.
looking at adding more things where I'm facilitating more as well.
Cool. So how can people find you?
They can find me on the Access Consciousness website, on
Okay.
social media, which just search for me somehow, or just go to the Access Consciousness website. And then I have a website. I hope the link is live. I'm not really sure. It's supposed to be soon, but it's meganhillconsulting.com. There's your marketing wizard, just, not having it together on personal side of marketing.
It's like the shoemaker makes shoes for everyone else except for their own family.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Nice.
I'm like, who needs shoes? I've got, I can borrow someone else's.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's cool. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. And
I feel like I've been able to be totally crazy,
yeah.
let my unfiltered flag fly.
Yeah. And so, hey, if this could save one person's life or get one person to see a different possibility about what's possible for their health, their future, their mental health, especially, then I'm a happy camper. So thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Grateful for
See you
you too.
later. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If this conversation has been a contribution to you, please share, subscribe, or leave a review. For more about Anthony, please come visit drAnthonymattis.com. And if you'd like to know more about the amazing tools of Access Consciousness, you can go to www.accessconsciousness.com.